Who got away with murder that should be in prison right now? David Miscavige. Where is Shelley? Issei Sagawa, Japanese guy who was obsessed with cannibalism of white women, was studying in France, lured a fellow student over to study and have dinner. He killed her and ate her. Was caught, but due to weird law technicalities between France and Japan on extradition and stuff, he got to walk free. Still is. Living back in Japan. The boys who tortured and murdered Junko Furuta. Karla Homolka. I just listened to a podcast about James Lewis, the prime suspect in the Tylenol murders. Some context. In 1982, 7 people died from taking Tylenol that had been tainted with cyanide. Lewis was convicted of writing a note to Tylenol's parent company, Johnson & Johnson, taking credit for the murders and demanding money make it stop. But he was never charged with the actual murders and was released from jail in 1995. Since then, it's been shown that he likely wrote the extortion letter before the first victims were discovered. He also was in possession of a guide to poisoning, and his fingerprints were found on the section about cyanide. In addition, his fingerprints were found at the scene of a separate murder for which he was suspected but never charged. The killers of JonBenet Ramsey. The scum who killed Junko Furuta. They got such light sentences for the crimes they committed. Miyano was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Minato received a 5 to 7 year sentence. Watanabe a 5 to 9 year sentence. And Joe an 8-year sentence. Deplorable and despicable. They should have all had life at the very least. Don King killed 2 people, separate incidents, served less than 4 years. That Japanese guy who ate that poor girl in France back in the day. He's now a minor celebrity in Japan that's released books and, believe it or not, is also a food critic of sorts. IIRC. Edit. Issei Sagawa. Tammy Williams. Currently still on the run with a giant ROSESHAPED shoulder tattoo. https www.newsweek.com/unsolved mysterious Tammy Williams update tips David Carter Volume 317566097. So far, whoever killed those college kids in Moscow, Idaho 2 weeks ago. My dad's murderer. Whoever he is. Wherever he is. February 15, 1974. Police never investigated. So, that's that. Robbed and stabbed. My grandmother. She's the storybook definition of the sweet southern grandma to your face. But a true snake in the grass. Our entire family believes she murdered my aunt, her oldest daughter. Even with our constant efforts, police refuse to look into it. She is, however, on our city's most wanted list for burglary at 78-year-old. Woman shrugging. Casey Anthony. R. Marie Ann Watson. I just came across this today. It's a subreddit started by the child of a murder victim dedicated to documenting everything she knows about her mother's murderers, who happen to be her foster parents. It's an absolutely crazy story. During a custody battle in which her mother was trying to get her back from the foster home, the foster parents murdered and dismembered her mother right in front of her. She was a child at the time. The foster parents never spent a day in prison for it. Instead, they went on the run with their foster children and forced them to endure 4 years of hellish abuse and torture. She was eventually rescued by a private investigator. And although she and the other foster kids got away from those monsters, they never got justice. The case of Marie Ann Watson's murder is still unsolved to this day. The foster parents were never charged for it. The daughter, who is an adult now, has been posting to that subreddit for a while now, providing updates about the case. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see the threads from years ago where she is getting her hopes up that the case might progress, only for it to hit another wall and go cold again. It seems she has now lost hope that the foster parents will ever be charged. And indeed, one of them has already passed away without receiving justice. She recently finished and released an autobiography about her life, called Dandelion Child, which I'd recommend reading. OJ, the juice is on the loose. Affluenza kid, Ethan Couch. Judge should join him. Bollywood star Salman Khan drove over homeless people. Nobody talks about it, but Floyd Mayweather beat his wife for years. She was writing a tell-all book and pressing charges against him when she was found dead, beaten in her car, parked in her driveway. They ruled it a drug overdose. Edit. Josie Harris was his GF, not wife. My mistake. If you simply Google Josie Harris cause of death, you will find many articles listing that she was found dead in her car parked outside of her home. Chantel Jackson also accused Floyd of assault. I think it's easy to imagine that he paid a decent amount of money to keep this under wraps, but you can still find articles on it. Casey Anthony. She had How to Kill My Daughter, as well as stuff like How to Make Chloroform, in her search history. Lied to everyone about who took her daughter. Had parts of her daughter's body in her car. And had taped up and buried her daughter not far from where she lived. The lied about it dozens of times. And changed her story like 34 times. Yet people still let her off. I don't get it.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.